We're back with Sean Horgan of the Gloucester Daily Times to talk about two big stories that are unfolding right now, including money coming into the local fishing industry. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
Great.
Good. Hey, yes, there's a couple stories on tap. One of which is, of course, the 28 million that's coming to Massachusetts as part of the federal COVID-19 assistance plan that has been singled out for the seafood industry. So that money is allegedly on its way. It'll be going through the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission first. They have a track record for being sort of a linchpin in these types of disbursements. And then it will go to the Division of Marine Fisheries here in Massachusetts, and then it'll go directly to the seafood industry participants, everybody from harvesters to processors to cutters to charter boat industry, right on down the line.
And what makes someone eligible for that assistance, Sean?
Well, there's a number of requirements. You have to exhibit a certain percentage loss. I believe it was 35% for this program. With the city program that we're also going to talk about is a different percentage. So you have to show that it's cut into your income by 35% over the last 5-year average. So that's the primary one right there. And then there are a number of other eligibility standards that involve whatever industry you're in, your income levels and things like that. So it's fairly individual from that point on, but there are some overarching eligibility requirements.
So just to generalize here, could you remind people how the fishing industry has been affected by the pandemic?
Well, it's been eviscerated by it. Once they lost the restaurants, once the economy started closing, and the retail settings for their live product started disappearing, everything just came to a standstill. I mean, processors weren't taking product. Guys were stuck with product, especially lobstermen had a lot of inventory. Some of the lobster processors here and some of the wholesalers here had a tremendous amount of inventory because the further on down the food chain, the processors weren't taking them. That hopefully is starting to loosen up a little bit, especially now as the season gets going. But once you lost the retail setting where somewhere around 77% of their product goes, it was a free fall, and it affected everybody.
And then there's news about the city funding. Really?
Yes, the city announced last week that they themselves, or itself, is going to offer loans and grants up to $10,000 to small businesses here in Gloucester, not just seafood industries, but small businesses that run the gamut. And in the story that announced it, we put in some of the businesses that aren't eligible for this. And there are a lot more that are than there aren't. So originally the deadline for applying for that was tomorrow, but the city has extended that deadline now to Friday. So you can do that online. There's an online portal through the city website, which allows you to file an application.
And from what I remember in your article, it seems as if these funds are really aimed at small businesses, right?
Yeah, these funds are, and they're not bailout funds. You know, they're a Band-Aid right now. They're trying to keep people afloat while this thing is going on, and they're really sort of lasered in on businesses that are using the money to try to keep employees, so that you get that double win of not only the business is being helped, but also the employees who work there continue to be able to pull down a paycheck.
Yeah, do I remember that one of the requirements was a business had to employ at least one moderate to low income person and keep
that was one of the requirements. I believe that was on the forgivable loans. I don't think that was on the grants. I think that was on the forgivable loans. But yeah, you had to show that you were going to use the money to retain either a low income or middle income employee.
And I think this specific grant has a $500,000 cap. It's finite. And last we talked, there were more than 100 businesses that already applied, and that was about 5 days ago.
Yeah, it's not a tremendous amount of money, but anything right now really helps. And it's being funded through the city's community development grants. So, that is a finite thing. The city only gets so much money in those programs. So to be able to turn around and use it this way, I think is a pretty good idea. And it shows, I think, a little vision and a little flexibility on the part of the city.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to ask you, are you working on anything else for the week, Sean?
Well, once again, I am stuck in 1918 as we speak.
We all are.
But we are making headway. We're really on track. I like how it looks. I think I ended up writing much longer than I think anybody anticipated, which is generally how I do it. And I think what we're going to do, at least Andrea Holbrook and I have talked about it. I'm not sure where that discussion has gone to this point. Is really break it up into 2 or 3 parts, and I think it really works well given what I've looked at over the last couple of days of what we've done. I think it's really going to work pretty well. So look for the 1918 pandemic coming to you soon from the Gloucester Daily Times.
Yeah.
Can you just give us a little tease, like one little fact that you learned that's really interesting? I'm dying to hear about.
Well, there's a lot of great facts in it. I mean, the CDC has a tremendous history about the pandemic, and with the help of the really generous help of the Sawyer Free Library, who we didn't have access to microfilm because of what's going on, and so the researchers there. The research department really came through for us and did the search and then scanned everything and sent it to us. And there's a number of things. One of the things was, that pandemic they estimated killed about 50 million people worldwide, including 675,000 in the United States. And by itself, it was alone responsible for increasing or decreasing the average life expectancy of an American by 12 years.
Wow.
12 years.
Yeah, it was everywhere. I mean, and it killed without prejudice. The 3 age groups that were most decimated by it were children under 5, 20 to 40-year-olds, and then 65-year-olds and older. And it was a disease that was characterized by early onset. You could be walking down the street in the morning, you feel fine, you go get a cup of coffee someplace, and you could be dead by supper.
Jeez.
Wow.
That's a toe tapper, Sean.
Yeah, so it's good news all around.
Yeah. But it promises to be a fascinating read, though, especially as we all sort of learn more about pandemics in general and the correlations between life now and life then.
Yeah, but also in going through it, they didn't have pharmaceuticals, they didn't have antibiotics, they didn't have an integrated World Health Network. Many of the things that they were stressing are the very things we're stressing now, including a very sort of amorphous sense of social distancing, which the CDC even says was applied very unevenly. But they were looking at quarantine, they were looking at isolation, they were looking at fresh air and abundant food. Those were 2 of the treatments for it. So they were flailing. And at the time, World War I was still raging, and there was a critical shortage of nurses. And you had a population of physicians, most of whom were not practicing when the 1892 pandemic occurred. So they had very little experience in this. And of course, they had no internet. They had no social media. They had nothing. And information crawled at a snail's pace. And this pandemic was here for almost 2 months. And then it was gone.
Amazing. Yeah.
So that's the story.
All right. Well, we can't wait to read more.
Well, if I don't screw it up, it should be okay.
Well, thanks again for your time, Sean. We're looking forward to it. I always love chatting with you.
Yeah, always nice to talk to you guys too.
All right. Take care.
All right, we'll see you.